Mail everybody, I'm Cantonese Cat. Everybody, Cantonese Cat here. Gonna go through some chart requests here. Somebody asked me about Amazon, so I'm gonna talk about Amazon here real quick. I do think that Amazon's getting close to resistance, if not already, at resistance. It is the weekly chart here that I'm showing. Let me see. The GAN level that I'm drawing here is actually is on the. I think I drew it on monthly here. Yep, 180 and 5. And you can see that this gives some pretty decent market symmetry. What you're going to see here is that you are getting close to the 1.272 Fibonacci level resistance here. Matter of fact, I would almost argue that if you do the 1.236, you're already there. You're like right at resistance here, 1.236. You might have a little bit more upside to go at 1.272. You might also hit the arc level up here above. But I think we're probably getting pretty close to resistance here. And you might end up having kind of go sideways consolidation here a little bit more before for any further bullish continuation. Upper Bollinger Band is also a little bit too far overextended. You see last time when it got overextended about the upper Bollinger Band, you ended up going sideways here for like months and months and months. And you have this big leg up. I think right now we're at a resistance level. It might have a little bit more room to go. You might end up hitting the 1.272. It may end up hitting arc up here. But the downside is maybe potentially a back test 200 level, which is going to be a psychological level here, maybe right at the arc and also the angle confluence right here. Or it could also go down a little bit further, back test this horizontal zone down here around 190. It doesn't have to. It can probably just consider sideways over here a little bit longer, maybe 4 months, kind of like how it did over here before further bullish continuation. This is a bullish chart. It's just need to maybe kind of consolidate down underneath these key Fibonacci resistance levels here a little bit before further bullish continuation. But I just told you like the upside risk is hitting resistance pretty soon. Downside risk maybe it needs to correct down all the way down to like 205 or 200, maybe a little bit lower to like 190. But the upside risk I think is probably getting close to where it probably needs to stall here. I could be wrong. We push through the arc and get all the way up to like 1.414 Fibonacci level here around 266. But I just think that there might be a little bit of a resistance here. It might end up hovering here sideways for a few months, kind of like it did down here below. That's Amazon. ASML. What ASML is really is it got to the 1.236 Fibonacci level here, got rejected, and come back down here, got close to 0.618, and I think it's probably bottomed. I find this to be a pretty decent bottom here. Because if you look at the 2-week Ichimoku cloud, you can see how it really has just kind of bounced all over here and also bounced all over here again. And because it did break through the 0.786 here, it got to the next all-time high fib level here, 1.236, came back down, dropped underneath the 0.786 again. I think it would probably need the cloud. The cloud is pretty thick. I think it's probably going to push price, going to push price up higher to back to 1.236 here, maybe over the next few months or so, and then see whether or not we can challenge it and push through. But I do think that it probably, fingers crossed, it probably has bottomed down here, is my best guess, right? Got pretty close to 0.618. I think it's a pretty good level for it to have bottomed. But yeah, we'll see. Right now, we have to challenge the 0.786 here again, around $738.50. But I do think that's probably going to end up pushing through over the next few weeks or so. And then it's probably going to end up gravitating up back towards some of these levels over here. About the reason why I feel that it will happen is because overall this is still a higher high compared to here. This is still a higher low compared to there. So it's still a bull trend. That's ASML. Somebody asked me about Bitfarms. I talk about Bitfarms a lot, but the key thing is it's been a whole year underneath this GAN arc over here. Initially, I was hoping they would break above this GAN arc here sometime around December. It got pretty promising here in December or in November over here, but it's just never really quite ended up doing that. Right now, it still got rejected here. We ended up closing a week inside the arc here, which for the first time ever, but that was a little bit of a false breakout. So right now, 0.5 fib level is going to be your support, and we're right at support, and we're trying to push for this arc over here for the entire year. So I think the arc is getting weaker and weaker. I think it's probably going to push through. It's probably going to go to 0.618. And I do think that the cycle minimally is going to end up going to 0.786 minimally. I think so because it's been consolidating sideways here for such a long time. One thing that's very interesting about Bitfarms is if I just kind of zoom out to like a 2-week time frame here, you can see that you have two-week candle there, inside candle. This one, they're extremely high volume, and when you have inside candle on high volume, generally that tells me that it might end up having a little bit of a trend reversal. And right now this downtrend over here might end up getting reversal because there's a lot of volume that's being picked up over here. So we'll see. I think that minimally is probably going to end up pushing to the top of the Ichimoku cloud here, which is around $5 on the monthly. Right now it's still underneath a lot of resistance, but we'll see. I think the volume is really picking up, so we'll see whether or not it ends up doing anything different, have a little bit of a short-term trend change. Long-term is still a bull trend because if you look at the 20-month moving average, it's still going up. And it's still serving as support on the 20-month moving average. This is still a bullish chart, regardless of what the feelings are. A lot of wicks down here below, as showing there's a lot of demand underneath over here. So yeah, I think this is a bullish chart. I think it probably wants to push up higher, at least to $5 this cycle, if not higher. If we get to $5 in a hurry, then I'll tell you a little bit more about my targets moving forward. Rocket Lab. Rocket Lab is on the monthly overextended, which is why you're having a hard time pushing up, because you just can't be way outside the upper Bollinger Band here. There's a risk for it to come back down and touch it. It doesn't have to, but the upper Bollinger Band here is $19.76. Always a possibility, doesn't have to though, right? If you're looking as to why it ended up getting rejected, where it got rejected at, well, let's look at the fib levels here and see what we see. If I can track this down here. Actually, I'm not really seeing any major log fib levels, so let's go ahead and look at the linear scale here. It got really close to the 1.414 here, and looks like it's just simply way too far, way too fast, and then coming back down and got pretty close to this all-time high wick. I think that it probably would get closer to either $21 or 34 cents, or it could get back to the upper Bollinger Band here, which is essentially like $20. If it's able to touch some of these zones over here, I do think that this is a bullish chart. I do think that the lower Bollinger Band is always down to the ground over here. I do think that this is a bullish chart. It could possibly have at least minimally another leg up. And if you ask me where it could go, the 2.272 around $44 is a possibility. 2.618 is also a possibility, around $50. Those are going to be my next targets, but it might end up kind of going sideways here for months now. Last time I see something like that was probably something like MicroStrategy. You remember MicroStrategy was just pushing way far above the upper Bollinger Band, ended up having to close back underneath of it, and just go sideways for like 7 months, right, before further bullish continuation. So I think there's a possibility Rocket Lab might end up doing something like that, just because it's a little bit too far, too fast. It might need some time to kind of cool off here, which is not a bad thing. Celsius. What I think about Celsius, I don't trust it quite just yet. Yes, it's nice that it looks like it's kind of formed a little bit of a rounded bottom. It's still at a potential risk to make a lower low though. There's no guarantee that just kind of bouncing back up. If it does bounce back up, you still have a 20-month moving average here that's turning a little bit flat to negative sloping, and that could serve as resistance. So there's only really two ways to go here. One way is, I know it could either go higher, it could go lower. It's completely pointless for me to say that. Is it a possibility this is the bottom? Yes, there's a possibility this is the bottom, because it really did get close to the upper part of the Ichimoku cloud here. I do think that it wants to get into the cloud. I still think that $21 is still a possibility, because that's where the lower Bollinger Band is still at, right? And I do think that there is a risk for it to continue to go down, just simply because if I'm to catch a falling knife, there are a few things that I look at. One is I look at capitulation volume. I do think that we had the capitulation volume, which is good, right? Check. Second thing I look for, really, a lot of times when I see something like that, I really want to see a little bit of bullish divergence to really make me feel more comfortable that this extreme downtrend is over. I'm not really picking up any like bullish divergence here on the weekly. It is kind of pointing up here, but it's still potentially at risk for making another leg down, right? I can't guarantee you that. And also on top of that, right now you're in RSI resistance over here. I just cannot guarantee that this is bottoming. It's extremely difficult for me to be able to catch this falling knife, because I'm just not seeing enough things to make me feel comfortable about catching it. Now, if price is at 20, that's a no-brainer. I think that would be something that's great to try and catch. if you're looking at the fit levels here, yeah, I don't think it's fair to use these fit levels here, but it's a little bit tricky. I don't know how to chart. I don't know which fit level is really most reliable. I think this is probably as good as it gets. If that's the case, then the 0.76 here has been trying to hold here, and it wasn't able to. And right now you have just kind of flipped the 0.76 here from support here to resistance, right? So I'm not sure whether or not we'll be able to close the week above the 0.76. If we're able to reclaim the 0.76, then I feel a little bit more bullish about it. But that's still a little bit of a bearish look here. I mean, so far I just haven't seen a higher high yet. I see RSI trendline at resistance. I haven't seen a higher high yet, and I still am afraid that this might be a falling knife still. So to me, if I'm wrong, this turns out to be like a V-shaped recovery because you have the capitulation volume over here, then so be it. You know, I'm very happy for Celsius bulls. There's a possibility of that this might bottom because it got really close to touching the top of the Ichimoku cloud. But on top of that, you also have a little bit of a bearish, technication cross here too. I'm conflicted. I probably wouldn't enter. I was looking for it to kind of go back down to 0.382 to the bottom of Ichimoku cloud and to the bottom of the Bollinger Band here. It just never really did that. So if this bounces, if it just keeps going up, I would just say, hey, you know what? Congratulations, Celsius bulls. You have caught a falling knife that I'm not willing to catch. But even then, if it pushes up, you might find some pretty strong resistance here up above at these Fibonacci levels over here, because the 20 moving average has gone from up curling, now from support over here to now resistance and flat and possibly down curling soon. So I'm not wanting to use this as an investment yet. But yeah, I guess caution is what I would say. MSTR is another chart was requested. All I'm going to say is just stuck in range. It could go down all the way and touch the 1.414 here again, and touch the upper Bollinger Band here again. That's going to be a downside risk. But I think that Bitcoin, as long as Bitcoin's underneath like 103,000, my strategy is probably not going to do anything. It's probably just going to stuck in a range. Bitcoin's stuck right now underneath resistance, and my strategy is going to stuck right here between these two levels. It's a big range though. So if you want to trade this range, like this range over here, if you want to trade this range, great. I just think that I probably need to cool down here a little bit, and that's exactly what it's doing. On the weekly, it's stuck here. Like there's not much else to really say about MicroStrategy right now. It's just a waiting game. But do I think that the trend has exhausted? Do I think that this is like the top of MicroStrategy? Probably not. I mean, the lower Bollinger Band is still all the way down to the ground, it's still expanding. So I think it's probably still got a lot of juice to it. I think that once it's done consolidating over here, whenever that would be, it's probably going to hit some of the four-figure targets up here, 1,000, 2,000. I think it's possible to end the cycle. We'll see, right? The volume here is just so extreme. It just makes me feel like it might end up just having some further bullish continuation. And we don't really have on the last cycle, we really ended with like a big inverted hammer candle way outside the upper Bollinger Band. We haven't really had that. I still think that it probably will still end up keep on going, and also together with like seasonality and cycles, I think my strategy is probably keep going up higher. But yeah, stuck in range right now. That's all I gotta say. The other chart, I think somebody asked me this related to MicroStrategy. Honestly, this is the 3x long MicroStrategy. I don't know what else to say. This is really hard to chart. The 20 moving average is flat, and it broke down underneath of it, and it broke back up above of it. So I think that the volume is also very, very telltale sign over here. So I think most likely going to have some bullish continuation over here, but it's just not enough for me to chart. It's 3x. Its leverage is a really, really weird chart. I don't know if I can say too much about it, but I think whatever MicroStrategy does, if it goes sideways, I think it's probably going to be okay. Man, I had a lot of drawing over here. I'm going to remove that. I did look at intuitive surgical ISRG here previously. All I gotta say is the bull trend is riding up the upper Bollinger Band and just wants to keep going up here. If you're asking me on a bull trend like this, what to think, well, I have two things to do. One is to do a Fibonacci sequence here. It's not really quite at the 2.272. Let me see if I can do a 2 here. 2. There you go. It's not quite at the 2.272, but it's getting rejected here at the 2 Fibonacci level. Every single level is going to be resistance. it doesn't look like it cares about resistance yet so far. At when some point a fib level is going to matter, and it's probably going to get rejected here, because you can't just have things kind of go up on a straight line, right? If you're looking for some potential resistance level, I'm going to go to the weekly here. I'm going to do a can here from the bottom, and I'm going to use the standard number here, which is going to be 180. And I'm going to change the Gann chart here. 1 is too small. I'm going to change it to 5. 5 is really telling you that it's just bringing up the 45-degree angle. There's really not much to say. Actually, it could go all the way up to, like, 600, 650, 630 before any major resistance is felt. I don't have too much to say about this. I actually don't know where it's going to end up getting rejected. At some point, it's going to get rejected. And if it does, then there could be a pretty long consolidation sideways price action here. But so far, I'm not really seeing any signs for that. As it goes up, though, it is getting a little bit exhausted here, right? You can see RSI is kind of going to trend down. You have a lot of bearish divergence here that's being built up. It's going to get exhausted. So I'm saying it's going to hit either here, 600, 630, 670. I think eventually it's probably getting close to maybe starting to kind of roll over and consolidate sideways here a little bit. I just don't know when that's going to be. But the other side is telling me that it's getting ready to kind of do that, and it can do that anytime. You see what happened last time when you have RSI kind of rolling over like this, when price kind of going up. You end up having a little bit of correction. I see that happening, but could it be correction down here? Could it be going up and go back down to the fib level? Could it go up 2 fib levels and go back down a little bit 1 fib level? I do not know the answer to that. All I see is that even though it looks like it's going in a straight line, it looks like there might be a little bit of exhaustion here. So that's that. Another one is Kick. Kick is an interesting one, actually. I have a hard time really... It's a bullish chart, first of all, but I have a hard time really saying like how high it's going to go this cycle, because if you look at Kick like before, it's really hard. Like whenever it's just really hard for me to tell how high it's going to go and how low it's going to go. It's a really tough stock to chart. All I can say right now is hitting the 0.618 is getting into some pretty strong resistance here. So I don't think it's just going to push through the 0.618 on this first try. It's probably going to end up come back down here. Maybe it hits like the 0.5 down here around like $45, $46, finding some support here before further bullish continuation. Doing pretty good though on the Ichimoku. I don't think it's going to go all the way back down to 0.38. 382 back to this horizontal level over here, although it could, right? You can see why that would be the case, because it's been a very strong resistance level over here. You just had a breakout. It could back test that, or it could just end up back to 0.5, find some level here as support before pushing up higher. It's that resistance, so I'm going to be a little bit more skeptical about it. Yeah, I'm gonna remain a little bit skeptical about it. The bull in Japan is also a little bit overextended too, right? On the monthly, it's a bull trend, don't get me wrong. I think it's going to keep going up higher, but I just think that it has to find a little bit of a higher low before further bullish continuation. That's all. I think that ultimately this cycle, at least $57, if it's able to push through that, 75, 82, 90, all of those are possibility in like 2026, 2027 and beyond. I think that's a possibility because it's a very strong bull trend. But it's a little bit far overextended, so it probably needs to kind of consolidate somewhere before pushing up further is what I'm thinking. Any dips are probably worth buying though at any strong support levels. So like 0.5 is probably going to be a pretty decent area to buy dip, not financial advice. Lemonade. We're getting close to the end of this video, I promise. We're about 20 minutes in. Do I like Lemonade? I like Lemonade. Would I buy when it's way outside the upper Bollinger Band here? No. Would I start considering buying over here when it's getting close back to the upper Bollinger Band here? Maybe, but so far you have a Marubasu candle. There's no wick up here or above. It looks like it wants to maybe have a little bit more bearish continuation moving forward. A lot of bearish energy so far this month, unfortunately. But the Bollinger Band is expanding. I expect this bullish trend to continue. If you ask me where it's going to be a good spot to buy, you could potentially consider buying here at the upper Bollinger Band around $38.56. The other level would be the 0.382 down here, around $31.23. I'm not sure it's going to come back all the way down to 20s. I'm just not sure whether or not that's going to be the case. It's a pretty bullish chart, but it has to correct. The weekly is also telling you a telltale sign. Again, the Bollinger Band continue to expand, but you have just way too far, way too fast. It's just correcting sideways to downwards here on declining volume. And if it continues to go down on declining volume to 0.382, that would be like a big buy zone, because that's also the previous horizontal level over here too. So that would be a relatively big buy zone if it ends up hitting that area. To me, if you end up buying down here, I would in the teens, I would probably say like whatever. This is like a hold. I don't care how far down it goes. It doesn't really matter to me. But for a lot of people, that might matter, you know. So I don't know in terms of what fits what fits best in terms of your risk tolerance and how far you're willing to kind of ride it down. If you do a Gann chart here, I'm going to do a quick one here. 180 from the bottom, 180 and 1, right? You see what's happening right now. Yes, the market symmetry, there is some pretty decent market symmetry here. So you can see like it's not really hitting any Gann level here as resistance, but it's coming back down to this 45-degree angle. Could we end up holding here? There's a possibility of it doing it. I just don't see enough confluence for me to think that that's going to necessarily be the case. So I'm going to change the some of the Gann settings here and see whether or not I see any good market symmetry. So far, not really. I think 0.1 is not going to give me any like decent market symmetry here. 0.2 maybe, but it's outside the Gann here. But you can see how like that based on the Gann, there's a possibility like you might end up getting some kind of support over here, but I'm just not seeing enough confluence for me to think that that's the case. It's already broke down underneath the 0.5. So I probably wouldn't buy here, but it's probably going to be a hold for me if I had it. So that's Lemonade. One last one I want to talk about that I've got asked to chart here is TLT. It's been pretty brutal, but it's been forming higher highs and higher lows. So I don't really have any concerns that TLT is probably going to keep going up higher. It's been battling the weekly Ichimoku cloud here like crazy. And we looked like we were about to break out, but we end up not doing so. If you ask me what TNT is going to do, though, if you really want my opinion about what TNT is going to do, I think TNT is getting close to reversing its bear trend because it's already challenging the 20-month moving average pretty strongly. I think it's going to end up flattening here over the next couple months or so. And I think we're probably going to reclaiming the 20-month moving average from resistance to support before pushing price up a lot higher. I do think that TLT is going to look pretty good. The reason why I also think that to be the case is because if you look at like the 20-year yield, and let's see, US 20-year, it's basically like the inverse. It looks like completely exhausted. It looks like it just wants to roll over. It looks like 20-month moving average is kind of going to roll over here. It looks like it wants to break down. So I think that TLT chart can break to the upside at any time. You have the Bollinger Band here on the monthly squeezing pretty hard, so I think that it's going to break out to the upside here within the next few months or so. But it's still battling its demons in terms of the Ichimoku cloud. It's still battling its demon in terms of the Bollinger support band. It's just been oscillating around that. It's getting a little bit trendless, but forming a pretty decent bottom, forming higher highs and higher lows. So yeah, over the next couple months, the next few months maybe, probably end up going up from here. That's what I think. If you're looking at different levels, I can give you a couple of fib levels here to look at. Obviously, it's like all the way down here. So I think that it's trying to battle. It's got rejected at 0.236 here multiple times, right? Needs to reclaim the 0.136 level here. And I think it will. We might close underneath this month, but we might be a little bit of a false breakdown. Overall, though, I still find this to be a bullish chart that's building a decent base here. So I'm not bearish on TLT. I'm not bearish on US bonds. I am bearish on yields in general based on just looking at all this. So yeah, if TLT does well, if yields don't do well, usually it fosters a little bit more of a risk on sentiment or risk on environment. So we'll see. Anyway, just waiting for all these charts. It's been 25 minutes. I'm going to end now. Thank you so much. Bye.